Hello, my friends. This is Nikki. Thank you for joining me for episode 151 of Learning About the Lord. Today we will be reading from Maria Valtorta's Home of the Man God, Volume 2. The Lord is proselytizing with the apostles in foreign lands, and he's speaking to them now, and he says, "Is it not lovely to go like this, dropping sparks of light, serving and praising God on lands enveloped in darkness, in dumb hearts, on souls as sterile as deserts, to overcome the stench of falsehood, and do that all together thus, you and I, the Master and his apostles, with one heart only, with one desire only, with one will only, so that God may be known and loved, so that God may gather all peoples under his tent, and everybody may be where he is." And that is the hope, the hunger, and the desire of God. And that is the hope and the desire and the hunger of souls who are not of different races, but belong to one race only, the one created by God. And since they are all the sons of the one God, we have the same desires, the same hopes, the same hungers for heaven, for truth, for real love. Centuries of errors seem to have changed the instinct of souls, but it is not so. Errors envelope minds, because minds are mingled with flesh and feel the effects of the poison with which Satan inoculated the animal man. And thus errors can envelope hearts, because they are engrafted into the flesh as well, and feel the effect of the poison. The treble concupiscence bites senses, sentiments, and thoughts, but the spirit is not engrafted into the flesh. It may be stunned by the blows which Satan and concupiscence deliver it. It may be also blinded by the allurements of the flesh and by the sprays of boiling blood of the animal man into whom it is infused. But it has not changed its longing for heaven, for God. It cannot change. See the clear water of this torrent? It descended from the sky, and it will go back to the sky through the evaporation of water caused by winds and sun. It descends and rises again. Elements are not consumed, they go back to their origin. The spirit goes back to its origin. If this water here, amongst these stones, could speak, it would tell you that it longs to go back to the sky. Also spirits, if they dared to speak, would say the same thing. Give us God, give us the truth. But they do not say that, because they know that man is not aware of and does not understand, or that he mocks the entreaties of the spirits who seek God to satisfy their terrible hunger, their hunger for the truth. Idolaters, the Romans, atheists, the unhappy we meet on our way, and you will always meet those who are despised in their desire for God, either through politics or family selfishness, or through heresies born of filthy hearts and spread throughout nations. They are all hungry. They are hungry, and I have mercy on them. And should I not have mercy on them, being he who I am? If out of pity I provide food for men and sparrows, why should I not have mercy on the spirits who have been prevented from being of the true God, and who stretch out the arms of their spirits, shouting, "We are hungry"? Do you think that they are wicked or savages, or unable to go as far as to love God's religion and God Himself? You are wrong. They are spirits awaiting love and light. Likewise, the peoples who seem like wild rams to you will go as far as to courageously defend the faith of Christ once they have learned that Christ is love, inviting them to follow Him. He invites them, He does, and you must help them to come. Listen to a parable. A man got married and his wife bore him many sons, but one of them was born deformed in his body and seemed to be of a different race. The man considered him a dishonor and did not love him. although the child was innocent. The boy was brought up amongst the lowest servants and was thoroughly neglected, and thus he was considered an inferior being also by his brothers. His mother had died in giving birth to him, and consequently she could not mitigate his father's harshness, or stop the mockery of his brothers, or correct the wrong ideas conceived in the primitive mind of the child, a little wild beast unwillingly tolerated in the house of the beloved sons. And thus the boy became a man. His reason developed late, but finally reached maturity, and he understood that it was unfair for a son to be brought up in a stable, to be fed with a piece of bread, to be clothed with rags, without ever receiving a kiss or being spoken to or being invited to his father's house. And he suffered bitterly and would lament in his den, "Father, Father." He ate his bread, but there was still a great hunger in his heart. He covered himself with his clothes, but he felt bitter cold in his heart. Some animals and some pitiful people of the village were friendly to him, but his heart was full of solitude. "Father, Father," he cried. The servants, his brothers, his fellow citizens heard him moan thus all the time, as if he were mad, and he was called the madman. At last one of the servants dared to go to him, when he had become almost an animal, and said to him, "Why do you not throw yourself at the feet of your father?" "I would," said the boy, "but I dare not." "Why do you not come into the house?" asked the servant. "I am afraid," said the son. "But would you like to?" asked the servant. "Of course I would," he replied, "because that is what I hunger for, why I feel cold, and I feel as if I were in a desert, but I do not know how to live in my father's house." The good servant then began to teach him, to make him look more decent, to relieve him of his terror of being unpleasant to his father, saying, "Your father would like to have you, but he does not know whether you love him. You always avoid him. Relieve your father of the remorse of dealing too severely with you, and of the grief of knowing that you are forlorn. Come, your brothers also will no longer laugh at you, because I told them of your grief." And the poor son one evening was guided by the good servant to his father's house, and he cried, "Father, I love you, let me come in." And his father, who was now old, and was sadly pondering on his past and his eternal future, started at that voice, and said, "My sorrow is subsiding at last, because in the voice of my deformed son I heard my own, and his love is the proof that he is blood of my blood and flesh of my flesh. Let him therefore come and take his place amongst his brothers, and blessed be the good servant who made my family complete by bringing the rejected son among all the sons of his father." That is the parable, said the Lord. But in applying it, you must bear in mind that the father of the spiritually deformed sons, that is God, because schismatics, heretics, those who are separated, are spiritually deformed, was compelled to be severe by the voluntary deformities wanted by his sons. But his love never yielded. He is waiting for them. Take them to God. It is your duty. I taught you to say, "Our Father, give us this day our bread." But do you realize what "our" means? It does not mean yours, of you 12, not yours as disciples of the Christ, yours as men, for all men, for the present and the future men, for those who know God and for those who do not know of him, for those who love God and his Christ and for those who do not love him or love him badly. I put on your lips a prayer for everybody. It is your ministry. You who know God and his Christ and love them must pray for everybody. I told you that my prayer is a universal one and will last as long as the world, and you must pray it universally, joining your voices and your hearts of apostles and disciples of Jesus' church to those of people belonging to other churches which may be Christian but not apostolic. And you must insist, because you are brothers, you in the house of the Father, they outside the house of the common Father, with their hunger, their homesickness, until they also, like you, are given the true bread, which is the Christ of the Lord, which is administered on apostolic tables, not on any other where it is mixed with impure elements. You are to insist until the Father says to those deformed brothers, "My grief is subsiding, because I heard the voice and the words of my only begotten firstborn in your voices." Blessed be those servants who have led you to the house of your Father in order to complete my family. Servants of an infinite God, you must put infinity in every intention of yours. Have you understood? So, what is the Lord talking about? He's telling us to pray for all of our brothers and sisters. He's telling us that we all belong to Him, and all of our souls hunger for the true God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, even those born without their knowledge, even those of other religions, of other edicts and principles, who are unaware or who are ignorant of our triune God. And He asks us to teach them, to lead them, to guide them, to bring them back into the fold where all of us worship the same God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and revere the Holy Virgin Mary together on bended knee in one prayer only. And by saying one prayer only, I don't mean one prayer only. I mean with the heart praying together in unity, with the heart speaking to God together in unity, each of us praying for each other. That's what I mean. I thank you for joining me. I ask the Lord to bless you. Go with God.